welcome to the event here. We've got some really fun, speakers that have been deep in this space for quite some time. So we're going to give it a few minutes. For those of you that are new to Gatherly, welcome in. For those of you that are new to agents and Gilder and a lot of fun stuff that we've got coming up. But with that, we're going to give it a couple minutes here. We've got an agenda that we're going to share out. And for everyone else, feel free to, if you want, you can use the event chat, introduce yourselves, share, where you're calling in from. You could feel free to share your company and kind of what you're really doing now in the space. And then we'll look to kind of kick this off in a minute. But Taiga, if you want to kind of kick it off, and maybe we'll do even a few introductions as we start the agenda.
I'll just do, and we'll let obviously Jay, Dirk, and Nick do a full level introduction or, more in-depth introductions of themselves. But just, a quick background. Jay is the founder of AIethical.pro. Full AI, basically handles the full AI operating system for a lot of clients that he works with. Dirk Vander Noot, founder of Telltale's Ops, also part of Gallery, the current product and the current tool that we're using to facilitate this event. Very amazing interactive tool. And then Nick Moscolis, he's the founder of Celeria, basically a platform for building AI agents. This entire workshop is an interactive session for folks to understand on how to build AI agents, implement them in their business, and leverage them, ultimately saving a lot of time. But I'd love to hand off the mic to Dirk, Nick, and Jay. If you guys can give quick intros of yourselves, and we can start the show.
Awesome. Happy to kick us off. Hi, everybody. My name is Dirk Vander Noot, and I have 10 years of experience in business operations. I've worked in industries ranging from hospitality to creative agencies, as well as software, all the way from startup to corporate teams. So in those roles, I learned a lot about how to integrate technology to not only support my work, but support the work of the teams that were around me.
Hey, everyone. Nick Moscolis, CEO of Celeria AI. I've been in product management for over 10 years, nearly over 10 years now, anywhere from healthcare to financial technology, fintech, and even in the AI space in the early 2023, when AI was just a buzzword back then. So I've been doing this for a while, and I'm CEO of Celeria, which we enable teams to build AI agents on our platform, which we're excited to showcase that off today.
Thanks, Nick. I can go next. So I'm Jay Batra. I've been in tech and data space for almost 30 years. I'm going to age myself a little bit here from all these young guys here. So a lot of experience. For about 4.5 years, I've been working on AI implementations. I've done some work in Citigroup. Then for about last year and a half, been mostly focused on small and medium-sized businesses with real hands-on implementations, all the way from training the models to doing AEO, GEO, sales and marketing systems. Now we have a managed AI operating service to help our businesses. We're training them, we're optimizing AI for them, we're securing AI for them. So it's been a very interesting ride.
Awesome. With that being said, we would kind of define. Obviously, AI is such a broad term, but understanding a difference between an automation, an LLM, and an AI agent. And Dirk, if you can explain those, that'd be fantastic.
I'm happy to. I know many of us are used to using LLMs, logging into ChatGPT or Claude, or even if we do a Google search nowadays, Gemini will pop up to help us answer our questions. So I wanted to go to the source to provide a definition of an AI agent. So I plugged this one into Claude, actually. And Claude responded, an AI agent is a system built around an AI model, typically like an LLM. But the difference is that it autonomously pursues a goal by taking a sequence of actions rather than just producing a single response to the prompt that you provided.
And Jay, I know your background is in a lot of different AI governance, legal security. If you can give us, a background specifically on how to leverage AI and specific agents on that, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'll say there are different implementations of AI that we're looking at. I think the biggest benefit we're seeing is in sales and marketing. When we approach sales marketing strategies, um, anything that is not touching financials or medical stuff, um, we are seeing a lot easier implementation. But as we go more into legal cases, legal documentation, medical information, PHI, uh, where patient information is at risk, people are a little bit more reluctant to give us access in the beginning. So we have to go through a trust building cycle in some cases, in most cases. So we always tell people to give us the biggest and easiest pain point to solve, so we can build something where they can see proof of action, their proof of concept. And then once that trust builds, it's like a very smart intern you get in your office. You have to build that trust. They're very intelligent, but you have to build that trust before you start giving them more and more. So that's how we've been implementing things in different organizations. So even for sales and marketing aspects, customer service aspects, we have been advising to not go fully autonomous. I know there's a lot of marketing speak out there. Oh, I built a fully autonomous system, and here's my prompts, and take this and build it yourself, or follow me. These are a lot of these, I believe, are clickbaits. I currently do not personally believe in fully autonomous system yet. Not we're getting there, but right now you still need a lot of human in the loop. You need hybrid implementations, and you need significant management of whatever AI we're putting in. I mean, that is the reality that I'm seeing. Very different from what people are, the tech pros and most people are marketing.
Thank you, Jay, on that. And I think, we want to dive into the real world use cases and kind of an agent showcase.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick, I'd love to hand it off to you. We can talk about a sales assistant agent, a customer support agent, also a feature request agent. We can kind of go line by line.
Yeah.
And then after that, we'll go into Dirk, and then Jay, you can share yours. But Nick, I'll hand it off to you.
I think that'll be great. And I wanted to add to what Jay was describing around human in the loop. If you're not just going to let these agents go and have access to all your systems and tools and just let it go autonomously, right? That would be a silly thing to do. So I think having that human in the loop creates two things, which is one, that accountability. So you can't just point a finger to an agent and say, well, it did it wrong, right? You need some human that's accountable for the agent and the actions that it's taking on your behalf, right? So that human in the loop piece is very important. And then the second part there is the reliability, right? So before an agent makes an action on your behalf, you need to have that touch point to make sure that what it's doing is up to your standards, right? Is it taking the action that you want it to, or is it taking the wrong action? Is it spelling something wrong? Is it explaining something a little bit different? So it's very important to have that human in the loop. And as you're thinking like, hey, this is the agent that I want to build, you need to be understanding that gap and that risk exposure of where, in this process, in these steps, can things go wrong? Okay, let's make sure we have a human in the loop there. So I think that's something we can showcase a little bit later. But I just wanted to add on to that, to what Jay was explaining there around human on the loop. Yeah, cool. So I'd love to just talk through some high level ideas around AI agents that we've built for some of our customers. Then kick that off to Dirk and Jay. And then I would love, Taiga, if we actually could build something live in front of everyone, just something small, tangible that they can take away with them and potentially build something themselves tomorrow or later tonight after dinner when you guys are maybe Claude coding. Okay, cool. So yeah, the first one I want to talk about is a sales assistant agent. So this is one that I use every single day. But this is something that you can plug into maybe Salesforce or HubSpot. And basically what this does is, as I'm going through and going through my sales conversations, what I do directly, after a normal meeting is I would probably go and summarize, that conversation. I would, go to HubSpot. I would create a new contact, maybe update a deal, and then maybe add a note. And then, let my team know, hey, this is what happened in this conversation. Hey, Bill, I'm going to need you to do some due diligence on this. Maybe I send a follow-up email to say, hey, thank you so much for your time. And, we discussed that next Tuesday at 2 p.m., we're going to have our demo meeting. Okay, wonderful. And then maybe I would even go to my calendar and send that out, that email, that invite out to that individual. Right. So, that's could take anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes after every sales call. And I think, or it just doesn't get done, right? The HubSpot is not being updated. My team doesn't know how the sales call went. They don't know what to do next, which typically happens. If there's any sales individuals on the call, you can probably guarantee their CRM is not up to date. If it is, good job, kudos to you. But it is a lot of time to keep that updated, which was kind of the birth of this sales assistant agent. So what this sales assistant does, it connects to, your CRM. So say HubSpot, it connects to your email, it connects to your calendar. It has access to Slack, and even access to those Google transcripts, so that as I'm having the sales conversation, I'm capturing all of that information. And then it goes directly after that sales conversation to that agent. And then it summarizes it. It can send it out, to the team. Hey, this is what happened in this call. But then, as Jay was describing, make sure you have those touch points, right? So before we delete a contact in HubSpot or send a email out to this individual, right? Let's make sure it's touching me. Let's make sure that I've gotten some, an additional set of eyes on it before I say yes and then let it send. God forbid it says something bad in there, and then you just let it fly off an email and you lose a deal because you're blaming an AI agent, where in reality it should be you owning that through and through. So that's a fun one. Another one, customer support agent. So being able to have an agent hook up to Zendesk as support tickets come in. This one specifically, there are a lot of questions that can be answered by a simple FAQ. Like 30 to 40% of customer tickets that are coming in through Zendesk are just, they could probably look up themselves, the customer. So this is a great use case for an agent to be equipped with that FAQ, and then draft those replies automatically, have the support come in afterwards and say yes, no, to all of those different tickets. And then a real fun one is more on the development side, is the feature request agent. So, in your favorite app, I'm sure you go in there and hit the help button and then, either file a ticket or request a feature, whether that's on any application, you can, find out where you can request a feature. What we've built internally, and we use this all the time, is that when folks request a feature inside of Celeria, we actually have a coding agent that picks that up, right? And that coding agent can search the web and find any documentation. Maybe I'm requesting, hey, Nick, I would like for you to have a HubSpot integration on Celeria. So, okay, great. Now my coding agent searches the web. It finds the API documentation on how to, actually build this inside of Celeria. And then it actually starts building that code through iterations. There's, multiple iterations that it goes through. It pulls down master, it creates a PR. And now at the end of the day, instead of a product manager looking through these lists of features, it's actually your product manager and your CTO looking through a list of PRs, the code that's already ready, right? So that turnaround time of, hey, I want this feature, to this is a working POC, is now, in a matter of 30 minutes, where 4 years ago, that would have been a turnaround time of 3 to 6 weeks on a single feature. So, the sky's the limit. But I think, Jay hit it is, you don't want to give all the keys to the kingdom, to your agents. You want to have those touch points in place, and have those guardrails and security around it. But I think those are three good ones. And then, I think Dirk had some additional ones here.
Absolutely. And thank you, Nick, for sharing that. And I totally agree with what's been said about how to properly implement these AI agents inside of our business workflows and making sure that that human oversight exists. Now, I'm a visual person, so I'm going to go ahead and pop up a tool that I've developed. It is very similar to tools that exist out there when it comes to process mapping or workflow mapping. If you've used anything like a Lucid chart or tools like that. So there you go, should have popped up. So very similar, going off of the agent that Nick described for the sales process. This chart, we all start with a manual process. We are, as humans, doing every single step by hand. And it's taking time. Breaking down just a meeting, right? We have steps to do before the meeting, making sure that it's booked, added to the calendar, and that we're doing our initial research to make sure we know who we're meeting with. Then in the meeting, right? I don't know about you, but I always like to take like 10 minutes before I jump into that meeting and remind myself, who am I meeting with? Especially when you have a few meetings in a day, it's good to know. Then, of course, the meeting itself, and in this case, we're calling it a 1-hour meeting. And then just like Nick was describing, those post-meeting tasks and making sure that our CRMs like HubSpot are up to date. Now, I always recommend when working with my clients to start by mapping out the process that we want to introduce either artificial intelligence or automation into. What Jay mentioned, it's very unlikely, though, that we are going to give AI every single step of this process. So we will start by identifying the specific steps that we want to hand over to AI or automations, or to keep totally human powered. Best way to do that, well, is to know what types of steps should we keep human powered. Those are typically the ones that involve relationship building or decision making. For instance, that 1-hour meeting, I'm going to keep that human powered. When you see a meeting on your calendar that you're meeting with Dirk Vander Noot, I don't want you to guess, is this the real Dirk Vander Noot? You'll know it's me. Now, a task like researching the meeting attendee before that meeting, that I'm looking at an AI agent to do, because a task like this involves data processing with certain unknown elements. I don't yet have that information about the attendee yet, so I can employ an AI agent to go out and get it. Now, there's a third type, of course, that I mentioned, automation. Automations involve taking known information with known start and end points and moving that information from one place to another. This step at the end here would be a great candidate for taking the known post-meeting notes and moving it into a CRM like a HubSpot to add as tasks for the follow-up.
And then just quick heads up too, Dirk, or just for everyone as well listening. If you ever need to make this full screen, if you hover over the actual window, you'll see a little like enter full screen button. So if you wanted to, see everything in larger depths, you're welcome to, not just for Dirk's, but Jay's, Nick's, or any of the workshops or presentations that come. And then also we have on the top right side of Gatherly, there's an event chat button. And so if you have questions throughout the presentation, whether it's through Dirk or Jay's, Nick's, and at the end where we have set time for Q&A, you can always type the questions in the chat and we'll make sure we filter them out and get them answered throughout the next 45 minutes. So any questions come up, use the chat, and then you can always full screen there. So sorry, Dirk, all back to you.
Thank you, Brian. That was a great point. So now we have to ask, right, how do we take a step that we're currently doing manually today and give it to an AI agent successfully? Well, when it comes to process mapping, the next step that I like to do is create a blueprint of what the process looks like after these automations and these AI agents are installed, before we even start the work. So this is where the tool comes in handy, because we can switch it from being powered by a human to being powered by an AI. And as we do that, the total time on the task is going to reduce down from 2 hours, 1 hour for the meeting itself, and for this in particular, 1 hour for all the pre-meeting and post-meeting work. So as we change that and delegate tasks to automations or AI, we can see the time that it takes us as humans being reduced for the entire process. But how do we give this properly to an AI agent? This task here of researching this meeting attendee? Well, just like Jay was mentioning with bringing in a new intern, a new team member, we need to set them up for success. This is an example of the instructions that I've provided to an AI agent, which does exactly this type of work of researching individuals that enter my CRM to provide me more data about them. This includes the role and objective that the AI agent plays, the capabilities and scope, and it is very important to identify specifically the tools that the AI agent needs access to in order to function and do its job. Then, detailed instructions of exactly how it is performing the task. And then I always like to add additional context. When something falls outside of its standard operating parameters, what should it do? Now, this will cover general edge cases as well as other types of context as well. So we can not worry about if something strange happens, as always happens in the context of business, that it will continue to function and know how to handle those anomalies. So through that, we can start automating or delegating steps to AI agents and reduce a process that used to take us 2 full hours, a whole extra hour of work around the meeting, down to 15 minutes around the meeting. And that's really just me reading the brief to make sure I know who I'm meeting with. I'm going to hand it now back over to Jay to discuss the legal security and the governance parameters needed to ensure that these systems are functioning well.
And then one other thing to mention too with everyone, as you think about these different topics that Jay, Nick and Dirk are talking about, everything's intertwined. And so one way or the other, whether you're using agents right now, you're learning it, you're using it very advanced and kind of completing a lot of your day to day, that's something that whether you're pre-seed, whether you have your own agency, whether you're Series A and beyond, that if you're not doing that now, this is why we're hosting this. Is I'll admit, even us at Gilder and a lot of the founders that I advise through Techstars and other groups, we're still on the very cusp of that 1% of using it to its true power, what people should be doing. So again, when you think about, these aren't siloed standalone things and how you need to protect it and how you need to make sure you have human in the loop, it's all intertwined. And as a follow-up, everyone will get, these presentations and things afterwards. So, we'll be able to kind of piece everything together towards it. And as you kind of look to build your own or build upon what you already have. So that's my little 2 cents. Jay, back to you.
Thank you. So if I try to keep it very simple, not a corporate slide here. Let's just be very clear that agents do fail. They definitely fail. Everyone admits them. They do fail. Even the automations with N8N, Zapier, all of these automations from the past, they still fail. Everyone admits that. So anyone saying, well, it's fully autonomous, as I said, it's just marketing speak. It's clickbait. So what's the right question? It's not whether I should use ChatGPT, Claude. When I go into different bubbles, I would say different type of communities. I'm in like small business communities. I'm talking to tech startups. I'm talking to, my clients and med spas and doctors. Many people, there are different type of bubbles. You go on LinkedIn, you go on Twitter, it's just heavy agentic talk and graph engineering and all of those things. Meanwhile, in the real world, small businesses are asking me what model they should use, right? So there's such a huge gap in how people know and see AI and its use. I use AI or we use AI, and what they do is basically just chat to a model. When you talk about agents, the biggest thing that I would say, if one takeaway you can take, is what is your agent's reach? So that's I would go with the principle of least privilege. So when we talk about agents, when we talk about automation, I tell my clients to essentially go very, very granular on a workflow and have an AI agent perform only one task. And we can get a little bit more advanced as we trust an agent, but that's where we stop. So I would give, if I were to do a customer facing agent, I would not let that agent access anything more than a few documents that are only meant for customer service. Nothing else. It should have no access to anything else. I mean, as we get advanced, as people get comfortable in an organization with those agents, we can do more with an agent. But I advise people to keep them very, very tight. Yeah. Now, that's the right question. Then the the agent obeys instructions you never gave. What this really means is that you could potentially feed a document, and this is why you have to be very careful when you are creating agents that consume documents, because in those documents you could have instructions. If those documents are uploaded by someone else malicious, you could have instructions in those documents that can actually give that agent a lot more access. That's the reason why I said, even if to protect yourself, you want to have clear boundaries for an agent. So if I were to show, like, I can go, there's a lot more covered in the slide, so we can, you guys can reference to those slides later on. I would show very quickly and how an AI agent contract looks like. So I'm going to share a slightly different window. Yeah, if you can see this. This is what an agent contract looks like. It will have a clear job, what it needs to do, a clear identity, have admin, knowledge worker, researcher. It'll have specific data. It'll have access to certain tools and only certain tools. And we need to log each access to each of those tools. Then where all this agent can go and who's approving that agent. Is another agent approving that agent or a human approving that agent? Then what are the stop conditions? When does it stop? So let's say you hear a marketing speak, oh, my agents are running all night while I sleep. Well, what happens if they go in a loop? You burn out thousands of dollars. The next morning you wake up. And then final is the owner. Who's the owner? If I go into an organization, a small business, the biggest challenge is, yes, I have automations for them, I have agents for them, but I need to have an owner that who understands front to back what that agent is doing and is approving anytime that agent sends a message to approve. Then the other challenge is, let's say I get 10 different messages from this agent. It gives me, so far out of 10 rounds, it's given me really good results. Then I learn to trust it. But that one time I'm having dinner and I get that notification which says, can you approve this? And I go ahead and approve it without checking because I am now overconfident. That is the time I'm going to get burnt. So the technology is great here, but people we're handing these agents to need to be trained. They have to be responsible, and they also have to be getting those alerts at a point where they're not super fatigued, right? So there are all these human equations that we need to bring in. We use human in the loop a lot, the words human in the loop, but the humans need to be trained, and we have to factor up all of these other conditions that can even make a human make a mistake with that agent.
Nick, I know you have a real world example about the humans. We'll invite folks up on the stage to ask questions live and get live feedback from our panelists. So we'll go into live agents.
All right, Nick's going to build through Solaria, but lots of different LLMs to choose from as you start to think about what tasks and everything that you want to use. So Nick, off to you.
Cool. Cool. So to kind of repeat what Jay and Dirk said, so you always want to start when you're building, you want to start, what Dirk showed was kind of an end all state, right? Like this very cool AI agent that he's optimized on and he's add layers of complexity on there, right? What I always say, which is exactly what Jay said, is let's start somewhere small, right? Let's start somewhere small. Let's gate it with a hypothesis. Hey, this is going to save me X amount, and then let's prove that hypothesis out over the next 1 to 2 weeks. Did it? Was it? Did it give us a return on our investment? Did it not? And if it did, okay, wonderful. Let's increase the breadth of it. Let's add some more complexity, some more tasks. But first, you want to start small. Make sure that does what it's supposed to do well, iterate, optimize over that, and then you can add complexities onto it. So we're going to do exactly that. I want to build our sales assistant agent, right? And this sales assistant agent has access to HubSpot. They can have access to your email, to your calendar, to Google transcripts. But I think in the beginning here, we just want it to be able to take actions on my behalf inside of HubSpot for me, right? So we're going to build, and we're going to do this fairly quick here. But this is Celeria. So, whether it's N8N, whether it's Celeria, maybe you're in Claude Cowork or, Claude, building out agents in Claude Code. They all have their different flavors. And so, what I'm going to do is just kind of speed run this. But the first thing I'm going to do is hook up my HubSpot, right? So we'll do this quick. I'll connect to HubSpot. And this is where, I'd really challenge people just, if you haven't messed around with agents or you haven't built anything yet, there you go, already connected to my HubSpot. Okay, great, wonderful. I would just, if you have some ideas around an agent, let's connect an agent, connect AI to that tool. Let's add some guardrails around it and just start playing around. What can it actually do for you, right? So I'm going to come over here to agents, and I'm just going to create a new agent. We'll call this the Gilder Sales Assistant. And as Jay, mentioned, you want to give this a purpose, a role in that contract. So we'll just say you are a highly discerning sales specialist. Super simple now. As you optimize, iterate, test, you're obviously going to add some more context to the system prompt. And we'll choose an AI model. Okay, great. I'm going to choose Claude Opus 4.7. And now I've created my agent. Also, as Jay described, you have to give it your tool sets, right? You choose the model. I picked Opus 4.7. Now I'm going to choose the tool set, which we just hooked up HubSpot. So I'm going to go here and add HubSpot. Now, this is obviously where you could add Slack. You could add your email if you wanted to add your email, but we're going to start basic here. I just want this to have access to my HubSpot and to be able to make decisions on my behalf. Okay, so that is saved. Let's try it out. So very simple, right? I've created an agent. It has access to HubSpot. There are no automations or anything like that yet. But we're going to go in and create a new session and just have a conversation with this agent. So I'll go to the Gilder Sales Assistant. You can see it has access to HubSpot. The provider's Anthropic, and we're on Opus 4.7. So for the sake of this, I'm just going to kind of start a voice input here and talk to my agent in natural language. So I just got off a sales conversation with John Smith. He was interested in our product. He mentioned that next Tuesday he would like a full demo at 2 p.m. What I would like to do is create a contact in HubSpot for this gentleman, and also a deal in HubSpot, on behalf of his account. And we'll go from there. So very simple, right? I'm just giving it a task. Now, keep in mind what Dirk was describing is that when we're on these sales calls, we have this, transcription of the entire sales call, right? And this agent can pull that down and then act just autonomously. For the purpose of, building, optimizing, iterating, I'm going to do this live here, but the thought would be, I don't even need to come in here and talk to my agent. It just works right after my sales conversation. So I'm going to hit send here. And what we'll see is that this is not just a normal back and forth. You can see that it's taking actions, right? So It's saying it searched all HubSpot objects. Okay, great. Before I create these records, I have a few quick questions. Contact details for John Smith. Do you have email, deal details? So it's actually, wanting me to be a little bit more thorough here. And mind you, this is all, I didn't prompt it to ask me these questions. This is all the model, right? So this is just a model being smart saying, hey, I think you're kind of being light on this HubSpot contact. That's not me telling it. But there are going to be, criteria that you're going to give it. Say, hey, every time you update a HubSpot ticket, make sure you have the name, the email, the number, all these other criterias that are important to you in your business. So I'm just going to say to him, you can put in placeholders for the email address. It can be johnsmith@aol.com. He works for ABC Company, and he is the CEO of ABC Company. The deal details is 15,000 ACV, and you can look at the pipeline stages and pick the appropriate one. So we'll see. This is going to have access. And one important thing here, as this is going, Jay mentioned the human in the loop, right? And this is actually showing right now. So the approval required. So this is where in the approval state, right, it's brought this transcript down and saying, hey, I want to create a HubSpot record. First, let's create the ABC company. Okay. So I say, yeah, I think that's right. I want to approve and run. So it takes that information. Now it's going to create the HubSpot company record on behalf of myself. Now, again, it says, create a HubSpot record. Okay, we're going to create John Smith at AOL.com. He's going to be ABC Company, job title, CEO, John Smith. Okay, great. I want to approve and run. I've given that second. Now, obviously, this is just a quick run through, when these are going to be much more context ridden with, it's not just going to be a quick approval, but you're going to want to go through all this information, make sure it's accurate to your knowledge. And like we said before, this creates accountability on behalf of a human. So now it's audited that Nick Moscolis approved and ran this command, right? So if bad things happen, I can go back to that audit trail, say, hey, Nick, you need to pay a little bit more attention when you're approving these things, please. And then the second one is that reliability. So, making sure this is actually true. Is the deal name correct? Is his name correct? Is it actually John Smith, or is there an E at the end of Smith? Making sure that what the AI is doing is actually true to what you want it to do. So I'm going to hit approve and run. Okay, great. And this is, you can see it's creating a deal. In these tasks, creating the HubSpot record. And you can go into these HubSpot records and like the actual action that it took and see the exact API calls that was happening, right? So as you're troubleshooting this agent, it's really nice to see what is it actually doing? How is it working through things? And that gives you really good understanding of how you can optimize and iterate to make this thing better. Create HubSpot engagement. Okay, wonderful. I'm going to approve and run. All set. Everything's linked together. Company contact deal, 15K, presentation scheduled stage. Okay, great. Now, I want to add breadth to this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this agent. I'm going to go to my Gilder agent, sales assistant, and I'm just going to add Slack. So I want, this to be able to send Slack messages. Okay, wonderful. And now I'm going to go back to make sure that was updated. Yep, Slack. Okay. I'm going to go back to the sales assistant. And mind you, just want to show this real quick, is that the cost of this so far to create a contact, to update, a deal, to create an account, to add a note to that user's contact, I'm going back and forth, is 52 cents. So 52 cents versus an hour of a salesperson's, or even 15 minutes of a salesperson's time. You're starting to realize the ROI on these types of small tasks, right? So I added it to Slack. I just want to say, please send Nick Moscolis a private DM letting him know about the meeting. So I'll hit this. Now that it has access to that Slack, because we're increasing the breadth, it can do more things. You can see that it's looking to list users. So first it'll say, okay, let me find, who Nick is. Let me find his ID. And then here we go. So, hey, Nick, quick heads up, just booked a full product demo with John Smith, CEO, ABC Company, for Tuesday at 2 p.m. ET. And there's some additional information. If that is okay, I would like to send that. And then, as you cannot see quite yet, there is this. As you can see, it actually sent me a Slack message saying, hey, this is what happened, Nick, X, Y, and Z, demo next Tuesday. Yeah, so I mean, fairly quick, but this is, obviously this is a simple agent. But as you build, you mess around with these AI agents, you want to have this hypothesis. And, my hypothesis could have been, hey, these things take me 15 minutes every time after a sales meeting. I have 3 sales meetings a week or a day. That's about 45 minutes. And at the end of the week or the end of the month, I can see how many contacts it's updated, how many, sales conversations it's taken and actually did actions on my behalf of. And then I say, hey, this only cost me 72 cents per session, times that by the amount of sessions. You can manually calculate the ROI. And if it's copacetic, if everything is up to your standards, hey, the ROI is great on this. Okay, let's add the Slack. Let's add some emails so they can send emails on my behalf, or maybe, calendar so I can update calendars based off that sales transaction. So yeah, fairly simple, fairly quick. But I mean, that's all it takes, is getting pick your poison, whether it's N8N, whether it's Solaria, Claude Code or Claude Cowork, and get into that exploratory phase. But you always want to make sure that you have the guardrails in place, you have that human in the loop, so bad things can't happen. And then you gate it with the hypothesis saying, this is what I think this is going to do for me in my business.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. And yeah, I think it's fantastic with AI getting so powerful. It's the best time in history to be an entrepreneur and automating a lot of mundane tasks. So it's fantastic. But Dirk, love to hand it off to you for a real world example.
Absolutely. And Taiga, I noticed that we're already coming close on time, so I'm also happy to jump right into Q&A as well. I think the example that Nick provided was pretty awesome, and a lot of AI agent development, no matter the task, is going to follow the exact steps that both Jay and Nick went through.
Perfect. First question that we have here, I guess either to, Dirk or Nick, that was most recently, but when we think about AI assisted modalities, like, and this is not necessarily new even in the past couple of years, but from Gemini to Fireflies and all of these AI tools that help transcribe. And typically we've seen, you have to kind of opt into permissions, but even I feel like I've also been in a lot of calls where I'm not sure if it's being recorded or where that's being sent. What are your thoughts in terms of how that shapes the opportunities for opt in, opt out, and how this kind of information, and Jay, too, to your point with security, like how this information is being recorded and used by agents or could get floated out, just out into the ether. So leave that for anyone.
I'd like to jump in really quick because this is a very important topic and one that we actually discussed a couple months back in January. What's most important is not just how we use AI, but also that we're honest with others about how we're using AI. When we jump into that meeting and we have an AI note taker, I always like to ask, hey, are you comfortable with the AI note taker in this meeting? Or would you like me to turn it off? But always to make sure that they know that, hey, there's an AI present, it is recording. That's just one example.
Perfect. Nick, Jay, any other thoughts? Jay, you're muted as well. Sorry.
Thank you very much. So I'll say that because we've been working with some medical providers and we've been working with legal professionals, I would say that, anything that's research based, sales and marketing based is okay. We're a lot more comfortable with, but anything that provides data to the 3 things where I'll say caution is absolutely needed is where you're providing any kind of assessment, clinical assessment, or legal suggestion. Or a third, if you're working with agents, you're writing something that's permanent. These are the three areas where you have to be super careful. So I see ads like formats cost in my feed, which will be something like, "Oh, we're gonna get you qualified people to book in your calendar." Now, to me, that's a little bit of a danger zone. You cannot qualify. Let's say you're trying to sell peptides or stem cell therapy, and if your marketing agent qualified someone based on a condition, you suddenly have given them medical assessment, which you're not supposed to. It has to go through a clinical provider. So that's a danger zone right there. Right? So the other agent that we recently work on a legal front is that a lot of people are going to chat GPT and getting legal advice about their divorce, their various contract situation, business landscape, and then they send it to their attorneys. And it's crap most of the time. So we'll create an agent for one of our clients, which actually fends back those kind of crappy inputs from the client. They still build the client, but they look through their internal documentation, legit case laws before they respond back. But instead of having to spend all day those kind of queries, now they're able to do it with an agent, but they still have to approve what is sent back to the client. So those are some of the cases that are very, very interesting with the human in the loop. But an agent is able to, or AI is able to help in many ways, those kind of situations. So I think the other part I would say very clearly is that if you get into a legal trouble, you're in a lawsuit, you made a decision, and you cannot say that an AI told me, an AI agent told me. You have to go defend it. You have to say how you came up with that decision. What were the weights, model weights? So it becomes very tricky. So right now, sales, marketing, and research is really good scenarios. All others have to be taken with a lot of caution.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Jay. And then I've got one more, and then I think Taiga's got one more question after that to kind of bring us all home. But so this one is from Joseph. And so, how do you benchmark different models or providers for an agent? And so, when you think about the cost and token efficiency, I remember with OpenClaw and some of the earlier models, people and the big lines now are like how Uber spent was their entire annual agent budget or token budget in like 2 months or something like that. And so that's always a big concern for, again, larger enterprise companies and even smaller companies where, a surprise $500 AI bill for a month, might make or break some things. So when you analyze, cost and token efficiency versus getting the job reliably, how different truly is using, Opus versus, Fable versus, ways to actually evaluate how good they are.
Yeah, I can say a few things and maybe you guys can add. So in our case, Fable 5 is super intelligent, but when you reverse engineer what makes it super intelligent and double checking and validating every assumption, you try to now replicate that in a lower model like Opus 5 or Opus 4.8, you may end up going into a spiral for double checking that initial assumption. So to cap it, you have to have a certain number of trials. You cannot let it run overnight. So one of the boundaries, one of the thresholds that you'll put is number of tries accepted. Okay, so that would be one. Now, in our case, because we're implementing a lot of private AI, so that allows us to cap the cost because it's not going to Anthropic or anywhere outside. It's sitting in the internal cloud, right, on a super powerful computer within the premises. So we're not that concerned about the cost in some cases. A good testing cycle of 2 to 3 weeks with a whole lot of adverse conditions will typically prevent that. So you have to decide how much time and what conditions you're putting your agent through to comfortably assess the cost. I typically, when I advise people, I say, okay, it's going to be able to do like 5 tries before failure, before it exits. So factor in your cost of each of 5 tries for that kind of agent interaction. So, 5x. Generally, whatever the cost is, what we see in testing, we typically budget for 5x.
I would like to add to what Jay's saying. How do we benchmark, right, to see whether this model is better for this task or not? What we've been doing and what we've been seeing is using evaluations, right? And there's multiple ways to do evaluations, evals, but you're testing a task and you're testing the same exact task across multiple models. Okay, so and what you're testing for is, one, the reliability. So how reliable is it? And then two, the cost. How cost effective is it? And what's reliable? If you're above 90%, maybe 95% reliability, that's really good, right? And maybe you're at 99% reliability, but it's costing an arm and a leg. And you can say, hey, maybe we go to Opus 4.7 instead of Mythos, to have it around the same reliability, but much more cost effective. And so next is, how do you understand that it's reliable or not? There's two ways to do that, right? You can have LLM as a judge. So you can actually have a separate model or a separate LLM actually judge the output of what the agent did. Okay. But again, that's good. But you're always going to want some accountability on a human, right? So even before AI, there were, when you're going through like an ETL transformation and you're taking data from one place to another, and there's petabytes of data. What people would do is you have humans just go in, randomly pick out, and look at the before and after. This is what it looked like in the legacy system. This is what it looks like after the ETL process. Well, if you do that, 100 times, that means you've covered 5% of the total data. And if you can say I have 95% reliability from just, humans going in and checking, that is a process that's been done for 15 plus years, right? So taking that same approach to where, let's run this agent on this specific model 1,000 times, and let's have a human go in there for 4 hours, pick out 100 random different sessions and understand the reliability. Was it good? Was it bad? Did it do what it's supposed to do? Or was it kind of close? Or was it just completely not even there? So wanted to add to that is evals. That is a great way to understand how, different models can be of, how do you weaponize different models when thinking of reliability and cost?
Again, thank you all for joining. The recording and the decks will all be shared out afterwards to reference. Dirk, Jay, Nick, if you want to take a quick second and share your LinkedIn's the best way to contact for people to contact you in the event chat, that would be great. But we'll also make sure we include that. And again, this platform, Gatherly, it's open, kind of think of it like an open space. So if you've got to leave, feel free. Otherwise, we're going to end this kind of broadcast, and feel free to stay. And I think, I'm not sure, if Dirk, Jay, or Nick have to leave right now, but some of them will stick around along with some others if you want to just continue to chat and speak about AI, anything else. But again, big thank you to our 3 panelists. Thank you all for joining and your questions, and looking forward to more of these in the future. So appreciate it, and happy Thursday, all.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everybody. The map